Welcome to Light on the Word. We're glad to have you back again this week. We had a wonderful broadcast on last week when we talked about the keys to divine marriage relationships. And that was such an exciting topic. And I have really been enjoying it and really into studying that. And the Lord has put it on my mind to share that with the body of Christ. Keys to the divine marriage relationships. And today we're going to talk again about keys to divine marriage relationships. And we're going to talk today about what is the meaning of a divine marriage relationship. What do we mean by a divine marriage relationship? Well, what we mean by a divine marriage relationship, we're describing a marriage relationship that is God-flavored and God-favored. It is a relationship that enjoys all of the blessings of a relationship that is ordered by God and it is inspired by God. A relationship that has in it active the attributes of God, such attributes as love, patience, forgiveness, long-suffering, the relationship of of favor and interest in your loved one, your mate. It is a relationship that is full of the power of God, the pleasures of God. It is full of fulfillment, and it has in it safety, it has in it security, it has in it satisfaction, it has in it joy, it has in it zeal, it has in it the thrills, and it has in it the motivation to love your mate. And each mate loving one another. Each mate being patient with one another. Each mate being long-suffering and sacrificing for each one for the other. And so that is what a divine relationship is about. It is a relationship that has the characteristics and the attributes of God, which are modeled by God in his relationship. The relationship that God had with Israel in the Old Testament, and the relationship that Jesus Christ has with his church. These are spiritual models of a divine relationship. And so we go to Ephesians chapter 5 and verse number 21 as we talk about the divine relationships. As we talk about the example of Jesus Christ, where the Apostle Paul was speaking to the Ephesians church, trying to let them know that the husbands ought to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And so this is the example, this is the model. He says here in Ephesians chapter 5, verse number 21, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Then he says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church, and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water of the word, that he might present to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh. The Apostle Paul, here writing to the church in Ephesus, is the Ephesian church, is trying to let them know that the divine order is that the husbands love their wives. In Ephesus, there was a challenge to the church. There was a great challenge to the church because there in Ephesus was the temple of the goddess Diana. And Diana, the goddess, was worshipped by a fully female priesthood. And the message of Diana was that the women didn't need the men. They didn't need the men. Not only did they say that women did not need the men, but there was also a Gnostic teaching that was connected with that. It was all throughout Ephesus at that time that said that Eve came before Adam, and therefore Eve was over Adam. And this was all filtrated throughout Ephesus, everywhere you went. This teaching was being propagated all over, and the teaching had begun to affect the women in the homes. The women in the homes, it began to affect the wives, and some of the wives were affected by this teaching, and therefore they had begun to feel like they wanted to resist against their husbands, and they felt that they were over the husbands. So when Paul comes back and he talks to the husbands and the wives in Ephesus here, he tells the husbands that the model of God is that the husband love his wife. And the model of a divine marriage that's patterned after the Lord's relationship with his church is one where the woman and the man actually submit to one another. But Paul had to put a little emphasis on the women submitting to their husbands because of this Gnostic idea that they should not submit to them or that they did not need them. And so he is not here talking about the woman submitting to the husband as if to say that she should be his slave or if to say that he should treat her as a child. But it was to show that the Christian way, the divine way, after the divine pattern, that the woman should submit herself to her own husband. And so what Paul is doing is showing the example of the divine marriage. A divine marriage is a marriage that is patterned after the attributes of God. The attributes of God are shown to be, and when Jesus Christ died for the church, he died, and in his death, he showed sacrifice. In his death, he showed love. In his death, he showed patience. In his death, he showed bearing the burdens and bearing the faults of the church. In his death, he showed long suffering. In his death, he showed the greatest of love. For greater love hath no man than this, that he would lay down his life for his friends. So God, in the divine marriage relationship, there must be self-sacrifice on both parts. The husband must sacrifice for the wife. The couple has to work together in a divine marriage. They must work together. They must share one another's burdens. They must bear the same yoke. They must be equally yoked. They must pull in the same direction. In a marriage, a divine marriage relationship, there are wonderful benefits of a divine marriage relationship. When people get married, they want their marriage to work, and they want to get out of that marriage all that they can get out of it, all of the benefits. They want to get those out of that marriage. There are certain benefits and there are certain blessings that God put in a marriage or in the Marriage Institute. The Marriage Institute is an institute that is designed by God, structured by God, engineered by God, that has certain things in it. But you have to push the right buttons. It's just like buying a new car. I remember one time I bought a new car. I bought a Mercedes, and one of the saints came out and sat in the car and looked at the dashboard and looked at all those different buttons and switches. And those, I could only enjoy that car if I would know how. I enjoyed it as much as I knew how to push which buttons. And if I pushed the right buttons, it would work. Those things would work, and I would receive those benefits. But if I didn't push the right buttons, if I didn't do the right things, then I could not get the benefits of the car. Same thing like if a person buys a new computer. If they know what all of the apps are, you can get the benefits of apps in a computer, on an iPad, or on an electronic device if you know how to work those apps. Computers are almost as smart as human beings, but we have to know which buttons to push and how to apply this app or that app. And if we do, then we can get the benefits out of that particular computer or whatever device it is that we buy. We will get the benefits from it if we know how to use it. So there are certain benefits in a marriage. There's certain things that God put in marriage. Marriage, when we talk about divine marriage relationships, we're talking about actually relationships that are not common to humanity without the influence of the attributes of God. In other words, the patience that God has. If we have the same patience with our mates that God has with us, then that is powerful. The love that God has. So then we're now moving into a divine flavored love when we have the love that God has. The patience, the long suffering, the forgiveness that God has. When we forgive, then we can enjoy the powers of forgiveness the same way God enjoys it when he forgives us. And so when we talk about divine marriage relationships, we're talking about the attributes of God being applied in a marriage. When we apply the attributes of God in a divine marriage relationship, these are what we call the keys to opening or entering into the divine relationship. The keys that cause us to enter in the commitment, these attributes, these things. Commitment, and when we have love, when we have patience, when we favor our mates, we can receive or we can enter into a relationship that has the benefits of safety, the benefits of love, the benefits of joy. A divine marriage relationship is a relationship that is not dry. It is fresh. It is satisfying. It is fulfilling. It is enjoyable. It is holy. It is fun. It is thrilling. It is exciting. It is sacred. It has the joy of when one is in a divine marriage relationship, then all of those things that would be or should be in the relationship would be there. For example, when people are in a divine marriage relationship, they have a tendency to complement one another. They have a tendency to encourage one another. They have a tendency to be patient with one another. A divine marriage relationship requires pushing the right buttons and doing the right things. Marriage will work, and marriage does work. And when you're in a divine marriage relationship, you are appreciative, you are thankful, you are caring to your mate, you look out for your mate. You look out and you are willing to share with your mate in overcoming all obstacles, overcoming misunderstandings, overcoming cutting down big trees that have to be cut down, that are in the way, in the path of the flow of that love one towards the other. As far as this is concerned, when you're in a divine marriage relationship, you give and your mate gives, and it's almost like a saw. That where the husband is on one end and the wife is on the other end, and they're sawing back and forth, cutting down the tree of misunderstanding, cutting down the tree of holding grudges, cutting down the tree of strife. You must work together. You can't hold back. The husband can't hold back from the wife, and the wife cannot hold back from the husband. But in order to have a divine relationship, you must push the right buttons. You must work at it. You must put yourself in a position where you're willing to make a sacrifice for your mate, where you're willing to love your mate and care for your mate. That's when you have a divine marriage relationship. A divine marriage relationship is a relationship that has the comfort of God in it, the comfort of the mate, the favor of the mate. It has all of those things that marriage was built to give. All of those benefits that God designed marriage. See, God is the designer of marriage, and God put in marriage all of the things that need to be there. Marriage has in it everything. It has in it security. It has in it assurance. It has in it safety. It has in it zeal. It has in it the joy and the love that the mates have one for the other. And so this is a wonderful thing. Now, and I want to also speak to you and encourage all of you to take advantage of the time that you have. Take advantage of the time. For me, I'm so happy in my marriage. And I'm getting a little scared because I think that maybe, I don't know if I'm getting ready to die or whatever, but I know that I'm really enjoying my marriage, and I know that I'm moving on it. And I was just telling my wife today, I said, you know, I think that we're blessed because one thing is because I feel like a teenager, a high school young teen coming after my wife. I feel like a teen, and I feel excited, and I feel energetic, and I feel very happy, and I'm just thankful to God for the feeling of happiness. So I told her, said, maybe that's the reason why I'm in such a urgent rush. I have such a zeal towards you. Maybe it's because I'm waking up and realizing, wait a minute, I'm like a teenager in high school when it comes to you. I flirt with my wife, and sometimes we just look at one another, and sometimes, so I'm just enjoying myself. And this is what it's supposed to be in a divine marriage relationship. When you love your mate, when you compliment your mate, when you stand by your mate, when you just enjoy their presence. This is a divine marriage relationship. When you enjoy, because you are going to enjoy the presence of your mate just like God enjoys the church, just like God enjoys worship, just like God enjoys praise, just like God enjoys being in the presence of the saints. That's the same joy, a joy like that the husband is supposed to have when he's around his wife. The wife and the husband are supposed to be so thrilled. This is what's supposed to be. They're supposed to be so thrilled about one another that they just can't resist being around one another. And if you're finding yourself like that today, if you find your relationship like that, treasure it, especially if you're a person who's older, but yet you're feeling like a teenager. And love will make you feel like a teenager. Love will make you want to clap and want to dance and want to just take your mate and you all go out and dress alike. And love will make you want to do that. Love will make you want to and to realize. It'll cause you to realize how happy you can be in your marriages. Those of you who are not happy in your marriage, you're being robbed. What you need to do is to take the keys. If you're finding yourself outside of your marriage, you need to take the keys that the scriptures give us. The keys in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 through 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And also in 1 Peter 3, 2 and 7, you take care of your wife as a weaker vessel. And then in Colossians chapter 3, verse 19, husbands, don't be harsh to your wives. Don't be harsh. Treat her good and compliment her. Take her out. Just look at her and just treat her greatly. But the thing about it is too, if you, especially those of you who are, I hope, those of you who are around about our age, I hope that if God has blessed you with health and strength, and you're able to do all kinds of things together, that you will not waste your time, because the devil will rob you. He'll have you all dried up. He'll have you where you're not looking at one another. He'll have you where you're not appreciating one another. And when you're in that state, then you are not enjoying a divine marriage relationship. So the thing is that if you want a divine marriage relationship, then you have to apply the divine attributes of God in the relationship. You must be able to forgive one another. You must be able to work together. Sometimes there are things that happen in marriage, misunderstandings and maybe economic problems, maybe things that have happened that hurt one of the mates down through the years, and these things cloud your vision, clouds your way from seeing and from experiencing a divine marriage relationship. But if you will work together, I want to tell you this, that there's nothing that you cannot overcome. I've counseled some of the most severe marriage cases, and I saw some that it looked like the marriage was over, the marriage was dead, the marriage had no hope to it. Well, in a divine marriage relationship, there is no such thing as there being absolutely no hope. And I know years ago, ministers in the church used to encourage couples to stay together no matter what the difficulties were, no matter what the trials were. They would encourage them to stay with one another. And I want you to know, too, that if you are married to someone, God has blessed you to be married to them. Don't say in your mind, I married the wrong person. Well, that was something you could say before you get married. But when you marry someone, then you got the right one. But before that, you think about that before you marry. But after you marry, if God allowed you to marry, if God allowed you all to be together, I believe that God has already sanctioned and blessed that marriage regardless to your differences, and that regardless to your differences, you can be successful in that marriage, and you can still, even your marriage, somebody said, not this marriage, oh yes, even your marriage can be happy and full of joy. You can enjoy marriage. Because if you would notice, when in the model of Christ and the church, when Jesus died for the church was so far from God. A man was so far from God, so fallen from God. The relationship of man to God was in the worst shape. It seemed almost impossible. Not only was that the case when Jesus died, but since he died and since the church has been, there have been cases where it seems like it is impossible for the church to have the glory of God, for the church to overcome. But let me tell you what, in a divine relationship, anything, there is nothing, there is no temptation, there is no misunderstanding, there is no hurt in the previous days of the marriage. that can declare the marriage destroyed, or that can destroy that marriage if they will follow the divine plan of God. This is what the preachers of old believed. They believed that it's possible for you to make it, and you don't have to break up. You don't have to get rid of your mate. You don't have to do that. You can forgive one another and stay together. Now, I'm not going to try to make somebody stay together who, for some reason, it's not for them to be together, and they have decided, and their pastors and their counselors have decided. That's not what I'm going to say, but I want to say this to you, that most of your marriages are salvageable. Most of your marriages can work. Most of your marriages at this stage in your life can turn around and be joyous and happy, and you can have the thrills of marriage, and you can have the thrill of a divine relationship in marriage if you will only apply the keys of love and patience, the keys of tenderness, the keys of caring for one another. If you apply these keys, they'll open the doors of the marriage, a relationship, a divine relationship where there's joy and peace and happiness, the thrill of being married, the joy of being married. There's fun in there. There is youthfulness in there. There is happiness in there. And there is the redeeming the time. Redeem the time that your life will be full. Redeem the time in your marriage. And that is what we mean by divine marriage relationship. You can have a divine marriage relationship today. God bless you, and we'll talk to you again on next week as we talk about keys to the divine marriage relationship. God bless you and keep you is my prayer.
Thank you for joining us this week on Light on the Word with Bishop Dr. Lawrence Brown Jr. We invite you to come back and join us again as we receive the Word and light on the Word from Bishop Dr. Lawrence Brown Jr. Light on the Word is a ministry on the Word of God delivered to us by way of Bishop Dr. Lawrence Brown Jr. Become a regular member and join us every week on the Now Network every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock.